Well, it's true. Harvard is the richest university in America. They have a $53 billion endowment. No one comes close. 70% of that money is restricted, so it doesn't appear as massive as it seems. But in theory, they could afford to try to spend some of that endowment. Last year, the endowment contributed $2.4 billion to Harvard's budget of about $6.5 billion. But the federal government has, they get a lot of money from the federal government. And I guess the question is, are they willing to risk it? And you saw President Trump on Truth Social just a few minutes ago saying, well, he's perhaps going after their tax exempt status. So it's unclear.
Wow. I mean, I just actually had some experience over the weekend on this at a place of higher education about the finances there. And for top research universities, and this is a private-public relationship that really started after World War II, which is when the America said, we need to be the leader in key industries, technology, healthcare, so on and so forth. We think the best way to do that, this is the U.S. government after World War II, is a public-private kind of relationship. And right now, the relationship is about 2/3 federal funded, 1/3 private funding, including the universities themselves. That's big money for a lot of these universities.
It is big money, and we've written that many times. And the federal government also gives students billions of dollars to attend universities in the form of federal student loans and Pell Grants and other grants. So colleges are quite dependent on the federal government, and they're exercising their views and saying, look, we give you a lot of money, and if you don't make changes, we have the right to take that away. If they say if you don't follow the law. And in talking about their issue in some ways DEI, if you don't follow the law of they're saying discrimination, we can yank your money away.
So with the sources that you're speaking to, Janet, is the expectation that Harvard will remain resolute in this where they are right now, or do people think that they're gonna essentially cave? I mean, I saw you wrote a story earlier last month about the Columbia president stepping down, and I remember that they had initially been kind of trying to stand their ground as well. So what are you hearing from sources about what people are thinking Harvard might do?
Well, I don't think it really matters what people think. It matters how they're going to get through this, because they are dependent on the government for a lot of money. Now, if you look at Columbia is poor compared to Harvard. They only have $15 billion. So it's uncertain what happens next. I mean, the ball is in Harvard's court. Are they going to litigate? That could take quite a long time. What happens if labs are closing, or they're from past experience, we're going to get stop work orders. We've sort of seen this already with a couple of schools getting stop work orders and getting money frozen.
I mean, what are some of the alumni? Is there a consistent reaction from the alumni, either in support of Harvard or maybe not supporting them?
Well, I think some alumni have posted on various social medias. People are happy that somebody has stood up to Trump, but you have to remember the federal government has a lot of power.
Yes.
And perhaps $53 billion seems like a lot of money, but I mean, how much money does the federal government go through in one day?
So what are next steps here? I mean, I see that the Harvard has officially rejected the administration's demands here. So
we're in uncharted territory.
Okay.
If you asked me to predict any of this, it's hard to know.
I see in your story you say that former Harvard president Larry Summers says that the statement drew support from him. He said that he hoped other universities would adopt a similar stance to defend academic freedom. Is he alone in that, or are you hearing other people on the same side?
I think there is an interest in having entities try to stand up to Trump. We saw this with some law firms, but in some ways, the federal government holds all the cards.
What are other universities doing? Have we heard from anybody else? Or has anybody been in a target like Harvard has
Princeton has.
Okay.
Princeton's president has been outspoken. But keep in mind, Princeton, while they've produced many Nobel Prize winners, they do not operate a medical school. Most of the grants are NIH funding, grants to medical schools, grants for scientific research. There's only a handful of schools that are receiving the kind of money that Princeton, Stanford, MIT also does not operate a medical school, but their had also received cuts in Department of Energy and Department of Defense. So remember, NIH is one federal agency. It's the biggest, but there's a lot of them out there. I believe Cornell had frozen funding from agriculture.